Will AI replace the human creator? Does AI have a role for creators? Let's find out in this part 1 of this important question. Hello and welcome. Try not to be too harsh on me. This is my first video after all. Please subscribe, like, and comment below. Hit the notification bell to know when I release new content. I wanted to talk about something that is already kicking on the door of every creative conversation these days. Artificial intelligence. Whether you love it, hate it, use it, fear it, it is already here. It is affecting authors, artists, editors, narrators, designers, musicians, filmmakers, and basically anyone who has ever created anything. Creating something from nothing is hard, because it's supposed to be. For authors, it's endless whiteboards, endless clicking on keyboards, font research, thesaurus work, repetition of dialogue, proofreading, continuity, and flow. Hell, anyone that's tried Adobe InDesign for the first time to create your book PDF knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Throw me a frickin' bone here.
So I wanted to talk about it from my perspective as an author who actually uses real people for the creative parts of publishing. I use real artists, real editors, real map makers, and real audiobook narrators. You know, humans. Those strange emotional creatures who have to pay rent, feed their kids, and send you an email starting with, "I have an idea." This is my opinion as an author who works with the real people to help bring books to life. And for anyone who grabs a pitchfork or before the robots add me to a list and label me squishy human traitor, let me say this. AI does have a real contribution to authors in today's world, and it will almost certainly play an important role in the future. AI can do many things to help authors, especially of the self-publishing variety. We tend to forget that even human scriptwriters in Hollywood run into terrible lines.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
We don't blame AI for human slop. Slop is simply just slop. Do I have to remind you how rough Game of Thrones Season 8 was?
Now Varys' ashes can tell my ashes. See? I told you.
Still waiting for Winds of Winter, George. AI isn't inherently evil. It's soulless, full of algorithms, rules, parameters, and output settings set by human engineers. But there is a difference between AI as a tool and AI as a replacement for authors and other creative professionals. Let's start with audiobook narration, because this is one of those areas where the difference is painfully obvious. AI narration can read your book, but human narration can perform your book. There is a difference, and it is not a small one. Here are lines from my first chapter of my first book, Twin Moons of Elder Dune. The first is read by a human licensed AI-generated voice. The second, a real human narrator, an actor, that can add those human elements to pause and emotion to the part.
She told him how her father had hidden her in a hatch beneath the kitchen floor. He had told her not to make a sound, no matter what she heard. There had been a man coming, she said, a hooded man who was supposed to collect a package from the barn. Mia described peeking through a narrow crack in the hatch door, her eye pressed against the splintered wood. She saw her father standing with the others in a half-circle, rifles raised, their voices sharp and angry as they demanded the stranger open the box. They thought he was lying. They thought there was something valuable hidden inside. The hooded man did not argue. He laughed.
She told him how her father had hidden her in a hatch beneath the kitchen floor. He had told her not to make a sound, no matter what she heard. There had been a man coming, she said, a hooded man who was supposed to collect a package from the barn. Mia described, peeking through a narrow crack in the hatch door, her eye pressed against the splintered wood. She saw her father standing with the others in a half-circle, rifles raised and their voices sharp and angry as they demanded the stranger open the box. They thought he was lying. They thought there was something valuable hidden inside. The hooded man did not argue. He laughed.
You sound just like a human.
AI narration can pronounce the words, usually, unless you gave a fantasy character a name with 12 apostrophes and no vowels, in which case even the AI is like, absolutely not, you're on your own. But human narrators understand the scene. They know when to pause, when to whisper, when a line is supposed to hurt, and when a character is being sarcastic. That matters because readers are not just listening for words. They are listening for emotion. They want tension, fear, heartbreak, humor, and that one side character who sounds exactly as unhinged as you imagined in your mind.
I saw that. Brick killed a guy.
AI narration is getting better, very scarily so. But human narration still brings breadth, timing, personality, and performance. Those tiny things are what make a scene feel alive, what make the book perform past the pages and into a listener's heart and soul. And honestly, if I wrote a dramatic death scene and it gets read with the energy of a GPS recalculating directions, then seriously, man, what are we doing here in the first place? Now let's talk editors, because some people think editing is just fixing commas, which is adorable. Wrong, but adorable. AI can catch typos, yes. AI can point out basic grammar issues. AI can say, this sentence is unclear. Wonderful. Thank you, Clippy. And then I learned they made Clippy into AI. What is happening to this world?
Get out of here, Clippy. You don't know what I'm doing.
But a real editor can tell you, your character's motivation disappeared halfway through the chapter, or this emotional moment needs more room. Or, you killed this character in book 1, so they probably should not be making soup in book 6.
I thought books were smart.
A real editor sees the book as a whole. They see pacing, structure, character arcs, tone, continuity, and all the invisible threads that turn a manuscript into an actual book. Finding a good editor is like catching lightning in a bottle. You may go through several first, but eventually you'll find the one you want to use for everything. I have hired 3 editors for my first 3 books. They all had different ideas which changed the look and flow of what I was going for. So for my epic fantasy novels, my style of writing is intentionally written from multiple points of view and scene breaks. I wrote this way to make it play more like a movie script than a first-person narrative. This world is vast, and due to many characters, places, and cultures, that's how I chose to write it. The problem, some editors don't want to follow my POV shifts, which creates its own problem. So I went through editors. I washed, rinsed, and repeated till I got the one that matched my vision of how I write. And yes, third try was the charm. Yes, I paid for 3 edits on my first book, and this was not a cheap way to do business. But new authors are often on their own, and in my opinion, preyed upon at times due to their inexperience. You will notice a reoccurring theme here. Everything from artists, editors, narrators, you'll go through several at first, before finding the ones you will spend the rest of your creative career with. Now let's talk cover art, because cover art is huge. Your cover is often the first thing a reader sees. It is the book's handshake, its first impression, and it's please pick me instead of the other 3 million books screaming for attention on Amazon. AI art can be impressive at first glance. You see it and think, wow, that looks epic. Then you zoom in and suddenly the warrior has 6 fingers, 1 thumb, and a hand that appears to be doing something dirty behind its back. The dragon looks really cool until you realize it has wings growing out of its neck and 1 eye. And the sword is somehow bending in 3 directions, which is very powerful, very cursed, and very much not what we asked for. AI can produce something fast, but a real cover artist understands more than just make me a pretty picture. It's a collaboration between the author's vision and the artist's creativity. When it works, it's a beautiful thing. To illustrate this is my second book, The Sacred Oaths of Elder Dune. The cover is how I described in the book, what was in my head as the author. This is the exact prompt from the book literally for AI to replicate. AI compiles examples that have previously existed in the world and crunches them together. Again, not unique, not what the author envisioned when he first thought of it. A real artist knows how to make a cover that says, I got you. This is what you want. They can take deeply professional author notes like, I want it dark, but not too dark. Epic, but intimate. Magical, but grounded. Scary, but beautiful. Also maybe more birds, but not too many. You understand me, right? Okay, sometimes us authors are a pain in the ass on our vision, but when you synchronize with the right person, you will click immediately. AI gives you an image. A real artist gives you interpretation of that vision. They bring taste, experience, instinct, and the ability to send you a bill when you go past 3 revisions. Interior book design is another thing people forget about until it goes entirely wrong. This is where the reader is for your entire book. Don't skimp on this one with AI tools or try to do it yourself. Ask me about that another time. I still have nightmares about anchors, baseline shifts, and how to make a font you don't have in your subscription actually link into your document the next time you open the damn thing. Interior book designers make the inside of a book feel professional. They handle margins, chapter headings, page numbers, scene breaks, font choices, spacing, print layout, ebook formatting, front matter, back matter, and all the little things readers may not notice when they are done well. But when they are done poorly, readers notice immediately.
You worked really hard, Grandma.
So do washing machines.
Extra spacing is a nightmare in modern books. The justified requirements by many publisher platforms can create close text in very widely open spaces in PDF final forms. Sometimes they can't be changed due to the Adobe InDesign platform of how they justify. Sometimes they can be lessened, but never fully eliminated in PDFs. There's multiple online softwares out there that can do this, but I've never used them. I never liked the idea of algorithms massaging my book without a human element. Here's an example from my 7th book. At the top of the page, there's too much space between words, but at the bottom of the page, the words run together with little spacing. Another issue is with empty pages. The way you import or place text from a Word document can sometimes confuse the software. When you delete the blank pages, instead of shifting pages to fill the gaps, the spread remains with only one page. When you try to get a fix from the Adobe Community Help page, they say look for triangles. Section starts may be causing the issue. I surrendered and hired a professional. And this is really the larger point. Books are not created in isolation. Even when an author writes alone, the final book is often shaped by a team of people. Artists bring vision, editors bring clarity, designers bring polish, narrators bring emotion, and map makers bring your world a texture. Each one of those people adds something that is hard to replicate with a prompt. Because creative work is not just output, it is judgment, taste, experience, and someone looking at your book and saying, I understand what you are trying to do, and I know how to help you get there. That matters. Now, does AI have a place? Yes, absolutely. AI isn't going anywhere, and we need to learn how we can use it as creators without it taking the soul out of our creation. The industry says it will put people out of work, and it will. The unions say it will end future creativity. It could. Artists say that AI training models stole their copyrighted works under fair use without due compensation, and some of them did. We'll touch on some of this in part 2. What some corporations did to artists was plain wrong. But the reality is, it's here, and it's up to human creators to shape how it will be used. Remember, AI can't create.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It compiles and spits out thousands of works from its database into a single answer to your prompt. There is no way of knowing what works were used unless you gave it the art to begin with to manipulate. We'll get to that in a moment. I came up with an example of how AI can be used by creatives. For self-publishers, money often takes years to make up for the investment we put into our books to make them a reality. Advertising and starting from the ground up takes time and lots of additional revenue to do it in the traditional sense. That's where authors can use AI to assist advertising products. Here's an example. Initially, I requested 24 digital art pieces from a human artist so I could create an animated book trailer. The timeline was over a month, and they required not just the descriptions from the book, but also AI images to reference from. Yes, you heard me correctly. They wanted me to use AI images from my own prompts for them to get a starting point for my drawn images. Many of the images I wanted to use were already part of my book covers, so the next step was figuring out how to add motion to them. But that is where the practical problem came in. To create even 1 minute of traditional animation, you would need hundreds or even thousands of individual drawings or frames. That means hiring animators, editors, possible CGI artists, and a production team. For a fantasy setting on another world, it becomes even more complicated because there are no real locations, costumes, creatures, or environments to film. Everything has to be built or drawn from scratch. So realistically, my choices were either to use AI-assisted tools to bring the existing artwork to life, or spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring a team to produce a short animated sequence. Without studio backing, a large budget, and a lot more time, traditional animation simply was not practical. For me, using AI was not about cutting corners. It was the only logical way to make the project possible at the scale and cost I could actually manage. I paid a human creator to create a book trailer, 90 seconds, music, and narration. The result was 100% AI. It was sloppy, it didn't tell the story, the voices and music didn't match, and didn't really reveal the world I wanted to convey. It was unusable. I spent $438 on that mistake, so I decided to make it myself. I voice narrated my video myself using a voice scrambler to deepen my voice, used AI to create short edit videos, used free open source sounds for birds, horses galloping, thunder. I created the tempo and a few bars of each song using a Yamaha keyboard and recorded it on my phone. I then uploaded the file and used my own few bars of music to create an AI instrumental. That's how I got the music. How I got my video output to match the representation of the world described in my books was by prompting AI using my own human-made art. About 50% of the images were based on human art turned into motion using AI. Then I personally edited it in Movavi to create my World of Eldradoon trailer. In short, AI assists adding a visual to advertising in an affordable way. 18 hours and a few subscriptions, I made mine for under $120. But if I had to do it again, it would be cheaper and faster as my learning curve is over. And in the description of the YouTube video, I explained and labeled the use of AI. I know many artists that hate AI in these respects, but for a video format, it is hard to argue the visual creation benefits for advertising purposes. I'll leave you with this. J.R.R. Tolkien famously said, "Evil is not able to create anything new. It can only distort and destroy what has been invented or made by the forces of good." Thanks for watching.